You are not dreaming, it actually happened. Ben Simmons was traded to the Nets for James Harden. The Sixers also had to include Seth Curry, Andre Drummond, and 2 first-round picks, and Philly got Paul Millsap. Now that will hurt the Sixers, but this is huge for both teams. Philly gets the best teammate Joel Embiid has ever had. He's playing like an MVP, and adding Harden makes them a championship contender. Brooklyn is the best basketball fit for Ben Simmons. He doesn't need to shoot, the spacing is a lot better without a true center, and he can create for KD and Kyrie while playing defense. But neither guy is perfect, obviously. Ben was scared of the actual basketball in last year's playoffs, and Harden just looks slow and out of shape. Both guys are notorious for flaming out in the playoffs, but which team is actually better after this trade? And why now? Brooklyn just said that Harden was staying. Well, something really big changed their mind. The Nets traded everything to get James Harden. Control of 8 first-round picks, Karis LeVert, who was just dealt for a first. They traded Spencer Dinwiddie to make room, and they're paying over $50 million in luxury tax. When Harden was leaving Houston, he said the only thing that matters is winning a chip. But nothing went right in Brooklyn. Harden, KD, and Kyrie only played 16 games together, including the playoffs. There were injuries to all 3 of them at various times. Then a little thing called Kyrie being Kyrie. On top of that, there were rumors that Brooklyn had issues with James Harden. They didn't like his playing style, the way he dominates the ball. Whenever he subbed out of the game, they had to play a completely different brand of basketball. Even Harden had issues with the coaching staff, and that kind of friction was a nightmare because Harden refused to sign an extension last offseason. He could walk at the end of the year for nothing after they gave up everything to get him. Even though Harden got with Kevin Durant and the 2 teamed up together, he still said he wanted to explore free agency. And now the Blazers just opened up enough cap space to sign him. Reports said the Clippers were a threat to open up space. Even the Sixers could have reshaped their roster to add Harden. And that's what people are missing when they're clowning on Philly for giving up Seth Curry and a pick. To sign Harden in the summer, they would have had to trade Ben to a place with cap space like the Rockets or the Spurs, then offload Tobias Harris's contract with an asset like Seth Curry. The only other options outside of making space for James Harden for Philly would have been Damian Lillard or Bradley Beal, but neither of those guys are technically on the table. The Blazers are clearly building around Dame with all the assets they just acquired. They could have $60 million in cap space, and they have pieces to make a big trade. I think Lillard is staying in Portland at least 1 more year. Bradley Beal is out. He may have played his last game in DC, but that deal would have had to wait until the summer, at least, if it even happens. Plus, Harden's just a better player than Bradley Beal. This trade had to happen because the East is wide open. Look, I love the Heat. They're good and they're deep, but they don't have a top 5 player. And yes, you can win without a super duper star, but it rarely happens. The Bucks are defending champs, but the Nets were up 49 points in a playoff game last year without Kyrie or James Harden. The only real criticism here is dealing Ben to Brooklyn because the Nets will be in the Sixers' way. But Ben Simmons loves this. Today's video is sponsored by Fission Energy Drinks. I am a huge energy drink drinker, and Fission immediately came in and topped everybody. The reason I say this is their system. They have the water bottle that you literally fill up with water and then a cartridge. The cool thing about this cartridge, it only costs $4, but it has enough for 4 energy drinks, enough caffeine. So that's $1 an energy drink. One of my biggest complaints is the price of energy drinks, and they take care of that. All you have to do is pop on the cartridge, then twist the dial to control the caffeine and the flavor. And so if I am in the mood for a really strong energy drink, no problem. If I just need a little pick-me-up, not too far from bedtime, then I can dial it down. Right now, I'm exploring all of their flavors, and this is called Jackpot. It is a green apple flavor, and I love it. They have the coolest packaging of never mind any energy drink, like almost any company I have ever seen. And the bottle. The bottle is very discreet. Sometimes I don't want to walk around with a big giant, comic book looking energy drink. This just looks like a regular water bottle. So guys, click the link in the description for 10% off your first order of Fission. Let me know how you like them. Thanks again to Fission for sponsoring today's video. Yes, it's a big market, but KD and Kyrie are going to take up the spotlight. If they lose, those guys will take the blame. But Ben can revive his career. They say winning cures all. It's a cliche for a reason. If he went to like Sacramento, he would never have a chance to win. In Brooklyn though, he gives them defense and shot creation. Seth Curry provides the shooting, and Ben could play small ball center for them to close games. His best position was as a roller in a pick and roll and being very switchable on defense. He couldn't play that in Philly because they already had a center who would roll to the basket, Joel Embiid. And speaking of the pick and roll, Joel Embiid has never had a pick and roll partner who's also a threat from the outside like James Harden. The shooting he provides minimizes what they lost with Seth Curry, and he doesn't have to be the closer in Philly. That's Embiid's role. One of the biggest issues with James Harden for years in the playoffs is that he would crash and burn at the end of huge games. But in Philly, obviously Joel Embiid is their best player. The question mark I'm worried about is how is he gonna play? Harden's averaging 22.5 points, 10.2 assists a game, but on 41% from the field, 33% from three, getting to the line 8 times. Impressive numbers, but really inefficient. He is not the James Harden of Houston. On top of that, he looks old and slow, and he's injured. His current hamstring injury is what kept him out of last year's playoffs. The Sixers are banking on James Harden getting motivated enough to improve his body. But at least that feels a little more stable than Ben Simmons, because it's all about his mind. I said he was a good fit basketball-wise, but now the Nets have the 2 biggest head cases in one locker room. Worst case scenario for them is in a big closeout game, Kyrie Irving can't play because of you know what, and then it goes to Ben Simmons to the free throw line and he bricks 80% of his free throws. Then Kyrie Irving could be a free agent and Kevin Durant will be left with Ben Simmons as his best teammate. And if the Sixers crash and burn, Harden could leave them and they'd be left with nothing. Look, I get all the people that say Harden could be washed by like next season, but this trade had to happen right now. The Sixers window is open and it could close at any time. We don't know how long Embiid will stay healthy. Look at the Celtics with their great future and their giant window. All of a sudden, Kyrie leaves, Gordon Hayward gets a freak injury, and people are wondering if Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum can even play together. Or look at the Nets. We thought, oh yeah, biggest big 3 of all time. They are definitely gonna win. No. Down the line, this could be an issue with Harden at like 36 years old making $50 million, but right now, it makes the Sixers a lot better. I have always said that Harden is not a perfect fit in Philly, but Ben is not a perfect fit really anywhere. The Sixers need more rebounding and better defense, everything that they lost with Ben Simmons, but they are in a better situation, and so are the Nets. This thing could either ruin both teams badly, or it could make one of them the 2022 champs. We touched on Damian Lillard very briefly, and there was a lot to say after that CJ McCollum and the Norman Powell deal. Both of them didn't look like they made sense. At first, I thought for sure we're gonna have Dame coming out immediately saying, trade me. But the Blazers actually have like a master plan. They could look completely different by next year, and Dame could be very happy. I made a whole video about it, check it out.